Look at that. Okay. I wish it would give like a countdown in real time. All righty. It says we are live. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I am Kat Udero, Psychic Empath and Psychic Wrangler. And before we see who I've wrangled into today's show, allow me to welcome you to Third Eye Salon, where in each and every show, we take a fresh look and a deep look between the veils of reality and behind the veils of reality. So today, we're looking between the veils of the intuitive visionary artist Susan Walker's life with the Angels. But before we say hello to Miss Susan, I'll switch us into gallery view here. Let's say hello to my bestie. It's Linda Coulter-Burge, psychic, conscious business coach, and just amazing human being overall. How are you, Linda?
I'm doing well, thank you. I am, again, very excited about this. We were talking about all the angels that I have and the lottery angels and the parking angels. So I want to learn so much more about angels. I am going to be your live stream chat host. And for those of you who don't know that, means that I watch for your questions so you can ask questions live, and love to have conversations amongst you and your experiences. I only ask that you be polite with each other and that you be in a mindset of learning, not just knowing everything. And if you get obnoxious, I will kick you out, because I have one rule: play nice or get out. So that's it. So you are warned. This is your one warning. Make sure as you go through the show and you find something that really touches your heart, make sure you hit that like button. Let us know so that more people can get to see our podcasts, and share them. I know that's kind of crazy, but share the podcasts with people who might need to hear about angels. And also, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button so that you know when we have new shows coming up. If you can't watch them here, remember that you can see them on Apple and Spotify. And that's been made available by those of you who have purchased us coffees. And there is a link for you to do so. So thank you for that. Also, if you have not joined our Facebook group, please do so, because we continue our conversations. We've been talking about angels all week. So it's a great place to continue on with this and explore it even more. And with that, Susan, I'm really excited to have you here. We've already had some guests in our group who have used your services and said how wonderful and meaningful they were to them. And so thank you and welcome.
You.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And before I get to Susan's bio, why we have to say hello to Jason Adkins. Now, who is Jason? Well, he is not just our co-host, he's a psychic medium, and he is an artistic channel for your ET guys and fractal family. Who is that to his right? That is, or his left? That is none other than Sekhmet. So how are you doing, Jason? How's the lucid dream coming?
I'm doing well. So far, so good. Good results. 3 days in, right? I figure that's really good results. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Yeah, oh my God, I forgot to say that, but yes, this is actually, Susan, this is really our 2-year anniversary show. We started on the 8th, so we're so blessed to have the angels with us, you and the angels, hanging out, blessing us on our 2-year anniversary show. Thank you, Jason.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here for the 2-year benchmark. I'm really glad to have Susan here also, just because it's nice to have another artist, and I'm interested in seeing, like, how does her process compare to my process. So I'm really glad to be here.
Nice. Yeah, we're so happy that we have this new additions of Jason and Angela as our co-hosts. Definitely a blessing, and has improved the show a lot. So thank you both. All right, I'm going to flip us back into speaker view and get into Susan's bio so we can get this party started. So yeah, give us a thumbs up because it's our 2-year anniversary. All right, so Susan is an intuitive visionary artist and angelic warrior. I love angelic warrior. After near-death experiences as a child, Susan was given the ability to see into the angelic realms, allowing her to see the angels in their pure light form. She uses this ability to draw your angel's portrait and relay messages and insights from your angels. Susan is also an artist and author of the Solfeggio Mandala activation guides and meditation decks, assisting us to realign with our original blueprint. She also creates healing art with a conscious heart from her visions during meditation. This is Susan's way of connecting with the divine and to assist humanity to do the same, recognizing the divine within ourselves and each other. So again, if you're excited to connect to the angelic realm during this crazy, crazy time, things are just getting crazier, give us that beautiful thumbs up. So Susan, let's talk about your NDEs as a child first and foremost, because it wasn't like an NDE. You had several NDEs between the ages of 4 and 6. So what the heck was going on?
Yeah, I had two, one at 4 and then a second one at the age of 6.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and those were took place while I was having life-saving surgeries.
Okay. So what was your experience of those? Do you have a memory of going to the other side when you...
Yes, I do. And I remember the second one with a little more detail than I remember the first, which, just because of my age. I know, and I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I was notorious for finding little nests of baby birds and baby snakes, baby mice, whatever. And I would just gently play with them and then put them back in their nest. And that was one of the first things, because then when I went into my NDE, first I was introduced to 3 of my own angels in this beautiful, beautiful garden with massive trees that, way bigger than what I'd ever seen in Iowa. And they really just kind of wanted to occupy my time. It's why I was there, it seemed like, at least at first. And they asked me if I wanted to see the world through the eyes of the animals. So I just kind of went from animal to animal of different perspectives. And then, next thing, it feels like I'm swimming, in this, in a massive, I think it was probably a blue whale. I'm not sure. But then I wasn't swimming in the ocean anymore. I was swimming in space. So I was swimming among the stars. And then I'm being shown like this, an explosion isn't the right word, but this a very intense burst of light, I guess would be a better way to describe it. And all these souls and beings seem to come from this light. And I'm then being shown where I was one of those beings, created from that moment. And me and 2 others were pulled aside, because it's like we were all headed to the angelic realms. Pretty much everybody was going angelic, it seemed like. And but me and 2 others were pulled aside, and we were asked to be what it was. They used the words, and I'm going to be honest, I don't fully yet understand what this means, but asked to be planet creators. And we're shown what would happen if we did and what would happen if we did not. I obviously chose to take on that, request, but the other 2 didn't. They continued to the angelic realms, and I, to this day, do not know where they are.
So
And
do you know
if I had any connection to them or not?
Can you tell us when they say, and I know you say you're still unpacking what it means to be an earth creator. Were these the angels that asked you to do that, or was this your higher self? Like, who was asking you if you'd be an earth creator?
That's a really good question. It just seemed to be this. I don't really remember, even with the angels, I'd never seen faces, but it was just this being of light, and we were shown, like, it almost looked like a big tablet of some sort that we were shown this on, but it was like, in it on this being's hand, but it was also very transparent.
Was it green by any chance? I'm just wondering.
I can't really say on that, to be honest.
No, it's all good. I just like, it's such a curious puzzle, because what it makes me think is that, you know, at this time when so many of us are waking up and coming into different levels of awareness, and, you know, the conversation is that you're creating the new earth, that we're all creating the new earth together. So I wonder if this is connect. We got chills on that one. If that's connected to that, or if it's like even beyond that, where it's like, if you come here and you do this work here and you survive the insanity we're going through, then like you get to graduate and become an earth creator. I wonder.
Yeah, what the whole process is to, you know, become an earth creator, I don't fully understand. And what that fully even really means. Yeah, and I think even the Solfeggio mandalas have to do a lot more to do with that than the angelic work. Though the angelic work was obviously where I started and have been doing the longest.
Okay, and I do want to talk about the mandalas, because you're saying that those are a portal, those create a portal. But I want to make sure we really like kind of bask in your NDE with you for a moment. When you were swimming so you were swimming as a whale or with the whale in the universe? Can you speak more to that? Like what that experience
I think is more as a whale. Because I was looking, I was looking through their eyes. It's like I was almost like piggybacking on their experience.
Because I've heard, you know, like back in the 90s, there was all this beautiful art of like whales and dolphins like swimming through the universe, and there was something that was so resonant about that. And I know that, you know, none of us are really from here, but like whales in particular are like so ancient and have come here from another realm. So I just think that's such a gorgeous visual of them traveling through the universe, and that they're not confined to our crazy planet where we pollute the ocean and kill them and do horrible things. In my vantage point.
Yes.
Yeah, Linda or Jason, do you have any questions or reflections on the NDE that you want to dig into?
Well, I was just going to kind of comment on the whales in outer space. From my understanding, whales, dolphins, like those types of aquatic mammals were seeded here, and because there are actually like humanoid dolphin whale-ish type aquatic beings, like I almost started cussing. Super smart, very highly intelligent, telepathic, and it's something about the energy of the animals here, our whales and our dolphins, that it's something to balance. It counteracts something with the earth energy. Very limited experiences with, but it is something that I have been aware of.
Yeah, it's like we're the ones that walk on the land and are supposed to take care of the land, but they're the ones that take care of the water. That's the way I look at it.
That is interesting. Go ahead, Linda.
I just had this question that popped question that popped into my head in this image that said, why can't they have out-of-body experiences like us? Why can't they be in the cosmic like us? Why can't they swim out there like us?
And if they're as conscious as like Jason was just saying, of course they can.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that was just what came in. It's like, well, duh, why can't they?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
That was one of those external coming in. So.
Yeah, it was like, here, we'll turn the light on for you. Think about it this way.
Right.
Oh,
here,
okay.
just spell it out, give you the picture.
That's awesome. And I'm wondering, Susan, so after you were 6, because I know like when we were doing our pre-show chat, because we love ETs on the show, we're all about our ET friends. And so I know that you had some ET experiences, and I'm wondering if you can tell us, you know, after being 6 years old and you grew up on a farm in Iowa, which I did too, and I forgot we'd said that we were both from like farms in Iowa. What was your experience of coming back into your body, and then how does that connect you to maybe that our cosmic cousins?
And after the NDE experience, I was able just to see my angels all the time. I really, really struggled, of course, to explain that to my parents, what I was seeing and experiencing. Yeah, a kid just doesn't have the words. And even if I'd heard the term near-death experience, it wasn't, nobody started using that until somewhere in the late 70s, I think. Yeah, so yeah, and this was before that. So yeah, but I just saw my angels all the time. At one point, my parents did tell me to, quit telling those stories. Were the words they used, so that my dad used. So I just quit talking about the stories. I didn't quit experiencing. And then it wasn't until 97 that I realized I wasn't just seeing my own anymore, that I was seeing everybody else's. And that's when I started doing the angel portraits.
And so before we get into that, though, will you tell us some of your experiences with the tall whites and what that was about?
Sure. Yeah, and first, I had these dreams all the time, and I think even before the NDEs, I had this reoccurring dream and pretty much had it as long as we lived on the farm up until I was in my mid-teens, where I was. Yeah, I'd be running through this house, and I would always be running up to the second floor, and then I'd go and like hide in my bed. But this being that looked kind of like Godzilla would reach through the window, or not, I'm sorry, not Godzilla, King Kong, the ape. Yeah, but would reach through the window and take me, which now we know, particularly from a child's point of view, that speaks of some sort of experience with ETs. So I had that up and through my mid-teens, but I do remember an experience with the tall whites. Well, I believe it's the tall whites. When I was probably like 9, I was, in the second story window of the farmhouse that we lived in. Okay, it was, in my bedroom getting ready for bed, and it was about dusk. And I remember looking out the window, and coming out of the detached garage is this being that it was so tall it had to, duck its head to not hit its head on the way out the door. And then it just looked up at me, and we just locked eyes. And I don't know how long we stood there just staring at each other. And then all of a sudden it kind of dawned on me, this isn't normal. I'm not supposed to see this. So yeah, that's when I turned away and went and my parents weren't even at home at the time. There was a babysitter there, because I'm the oldest, and I have a younger brother that particularly needed the extra help to keep track of. So I told him, and then or actually her, and then her brother and dad came over and walked around, because I just told them I saw somebody. I didn't give them any details of what I saw, because I didn't even know how to explain it. And they walked around. Of course, they found nothing. But yeah, I remember that very, very vividly.
Can you explain what this tall white looked like? Because there's when you say tall white, it's kind of like saying human, where it's like there's so many different types. Do you have a recollection?
Similar to whatever. Think of the small grays that everybody's familiar with. Just make that being be like 7.5, 8 feet tall, and paler, but still that very slender. Seem to be wearing, I don't know if they're wearing a suit that's a solid color that's or if they just don't wear clothing like we do. I've never, to be honest, I've never really. I've heard both theories on that. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put Jason on the spot for a moment, and you can just say, I got nothing. But I'm wondering, because Jason's so good at tuning into people's ET families. I'm wondering if you're getting any visual hits, Mr. Jason.
I will say, before you mentioned the tall whites, that's what I was thinking. That's the kind of the feeling that I had. And then the King Kong reference sounds like a screener. right? Does that make sense? Like how they sometimes it's like, oh, there's a clown in my room. Like they'll put like a screen in.
Right.
So because I know that there's multiple types of tall whites. I have some familiarity with one group that do wear white suits, so it kind of blends in with their skin tone. But sometimes the suits look like they have a glow to them, but they have blue eyes. Like they don't have like the black eyes, like a gray. Like they have big almond shaped blue eyes with white pupils.
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I was gonna ask if you saw a ship. So when you had the experience, throat is getting all clogged. When you had the experience of kind of the abduction scene, right, the King Kong in the window, did you when that was over, did you notice if there was missing time? Like, was it later in the afternoon? Do you have any flashbacks of anything that may have potentially happened?
As far as I can tell, it always happened at night. So yeah, if missing time would be kind of hard to tell, because if it's starts in the sleep state and ends in a sleep state. I remember being very tired after those experiences. So possible missing time or something taking place. And I've had more than one person that during readings that came up that, and a lot of times without me even asking anything about ET experiences, would say that I used to walk the whole farm with them at night.
Oh.
But I don't, I have no recollection of that.
Wow, I love that idea that they just kind of showed up and we were like, we're gonna go for a walk, we're just hanging out, I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah, so I don't know if I was like showing them things or if they were asking me questions or what was really taking place at that time.
Well, and that makes so much sense with the tall whites that I know, because they are super inquisitive. And it's always about like our everyday, like, oh, there's a blender. What does this do? What's the purpose of it? So it makes sense that, if you kind of felt like they were asking you questions, or if you're kind of showing them around and maybe explaining, okay, well, if you're on a farm, there's got to be like equipment. Well, this does this. These animals here do this. It makes a lot of sense. It feels right to me. It sits right with me.
Yeah, and I know there were a lot of animals around because my dad was a hog farmer at that time. And of course, we had several acres of land that was farmed. And then my uncle lived, the actual farms actually even touched. And they raised cattle. So it was, kind of like our house, my uncle's house, then grandma and grandpa's house was even a little bit farther up the road, and my great grandparents' house a little bit farther. That was all kind of all attached and both on both sides of Highway 30.
When you started seeing your angels around, were they always human shape or were they lights sometimes?
It's more like they're very transparent. Kind of like seeing that ray of sunshine between the clouds, how transparent they are. They have a body shape, but like I don't see like things like hands and feet.
Right.
And I don't see details of a face. Sometimes I'll see like almost like the shadows of facial features, but don't really see them clearly. And it's almost like when I draw the portraits, the arms are always outstretched because they're ready to like exchange energy or embrace whenever you need that. But it's like what we call wings, though that's not a true description of what they are. Being made of light doesn't need wings.
Right.
That's kind of the fingerprint. That's where you get into the unique patterns and things.
That's always kind of been my perception. Also, like there's not like they don't have these giant big bird wings, right? Sometimes the energy may be perceived, like the energy that they emit may be perceived as being like these flapping wings.
Yeah, and it's almost like, and it's because it's part of like their energy field. Yeah, because their chakras are fully aligned and fully functioning properly. They're all spinning in the same direction at the same speed. Yeah, because for years we've seen the pictures of your chakras are those little tornadoes that come out of your body. No, they're a full toroidal field, which shape, for those that don't know what that is, think of a donut, even with the hole in the middle and the energy spiraling around that, just like the magnetic field of the planet itself. That's what each little chakra is. And then of course you got that around your whole body too. But that's where, as that is moving, that's the energy pattern that we see as wings. At least that's the way what they have shown me. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like the idea of it being mini toroidal fields inside the body. Well, and that's also supposed to be like within our genetics, there's mini toroidal fields. I mean, that's we're basically, the universe is a toroidal field making machine, basically, and we're all, it's divine, it's geometry, it's sacred geometry. We are all light, literally light in a coagulated form, but it's like we're basically light. We're light being held together by sound. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, it's because an atom is an atom. Yeah, an atom that's in your heart and an atom that's on the table holding my computer at the moment. The atom's the same structure. It's just vibrating at a different frequency. So really, everything is, when you get down to it, it's about frequency. Yeah, and that's why our words are so important, and what types of words we use and our thought processes. Positive thoughts have so much more power. But and if you're thinking negatively, that's what you're going to experience.
Yeah. Linda or Jason, do you want to hop in before I go to the next question?
Well, it brought me to another one. We don't have to answer it now, but just what kind of misperceptions do you think we have about angels? Or do they think we have about them?
I think one of the biggest ones is, that they are here to assist us, but a lot of times the things that we need to ask them for the help because they need permission. But their main thing is really to help us with the life lessons that we wanted to, learn in this lifetime, the things we wanted to experience in this lifetime, and keeping us on track with that and helping us, line up those situations where we learn those things. For example, if you're supposed to learn forgiveness, then they're going to put you in situation after situation after situation where you have to forgive somebody until you figure it out. Until sometimes, and the first time it'll be pretty easy, but each one after that is going to be more difficult until you feel like you got that clue by 4 upside the head.
Clue by 4. That's great.
Some of us need 4x4s, but okay.
That's true. Sometimes we do, me included. None of us are perfect. We're all here still learning our lessons. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I always run into is that they're not here to do it for us. It's like they're not going to save you from your lessons. They're not gonna like, if your mission is to learn to own your power, they're not going to step in and do things that you can do for yourself where you need to own your power. They're not the new mommy and daddy, make my problems go away.
No, they are not here to do your homework for you.
Right.
They're here to assist you on that journey to help, make sure the right books get put in front of you, the right experiences.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, coming here to Earth is like we've chosen to get on the biggest, baddest roller coaster that there is. And then we go, oh shit, I thought it was the kiddie coaster. get me off, okay, angels, get me off this crazy coaster. And they're like, that's what you said you wanted. I'll keep you from throwing up. How's that? But this is what you chose to do. And you chose this one because, or maybe the guy you threw up on actually turns out to be a really nice guy. And that's how you met him. But, we don't always it's like, we don't get to say, hey, get me off this coaster when that's part of what we chose in this.
Yeah. You can't get off in the middle of the ride.
Yeah.
It's not a safe thing to do.
You can,
right.
but it may not go so well.
Yeah, that's an exit plan in its own.
Right. In my experience, you're like, okay, but we're just going to put you back on again. You'll have a new body, but you're going to have to go back onto the ride. It's what your soul is trying to do. So personality may not like it, but the soul has a different agenda. It's getting
we don't see the full picture from our perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, they see the whole picture of the life plan that we set out for ourselves, and we really can't see past tomorrow most of the time, if we can even see past the end of the day.
Yeah. And it brings me back to a friend that I knew that was constantly asking, what do I need to do to get past this part of my life? I'm really unhappy. What do I need to do? And she kept getting be still. And she says, I kept getting be still. I wouldn't do it. I kept asking. It's like, is that it? What else do I need to do? Be still. And she said, there's one point where she was just incredibly desperate. And she literally felt somebody push her from behind down 3 flights of stairs at her home. And she broke her back. And she had no choice but to be still. And she swears it was her guardian angel. Like, I told you, be still. Mm-hmm. And her whole life changed. And she said, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to 2x4. I didn't listen to the 4x4. And finally, my guardian angel pushed me down the stairs when I said, I command you to help me figure this out. Okay.
Our guardian angel's a thug.
Guardian angel's a
not
thug.
playing.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you asked for it. Careful what you asked for. But
it sounds a lot like the situations where, we're being told to take better care of our physical bodies and we don't listen. So then we get sick. So then we have to take care of our physical bodies.
Well, what stands out to me is I command you to help me figure this out right now. Like, okay, like you pulled the trigger. You pulled the trigger. But
boom.
Like, yeah, if
wish granted.
Right, exactly. If you're going to command immediate insight, this is what it looks like. I did. Oh my gosh! I'll just real quick on a parallel to that. Like, I remember talking to a friend at one of the many hard points in my life where I was saying, I've acquired a lot of soul gold. That's great, but I need some physical. Like, I need change now. I need it now. I need the support now. And I said now about 50 times within an hour. And like from that point, like my roommate situation exploded. Like a whole bunch of things had changed radically because I was invoking now, and the universe complied. Was it comfortable? No. Did it do the job? Why, it sure did. So I just think it's grand for us to remember to take accountability for how we show up, and if we're going to be demanding, the universe is like, okay, I'll match your energy. How about that? So. All right, on that, I wanted to ask you, have you, when you're seeing, because you started seeing people's angels in 1997, I'm wondering what brought that on, and did you see Jesus? Did you see Buddha? Was it just angels? Like, what else did your visual spectrum start to encounter during that time?
I really noticed it the first time, actually at the grocery store, because at the time I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 teenage boys and 2 toddlers. So not the least bit busy, but Yeah, and I kind of noticed the presence of more angels, but hadn't really had the time to put much thought into it. And then I went to the grocery store, and I literally got so overwhelmed. I left the grocery cart in the middle of the aisle and turned around and went home. Yeah, and then over the next, few days, I sat down in meditation multiple times, just going, what am I supposed to do this? Why me? Yeah. And they just kept going, showing me me like sitting at a table, painting or drawing and finding some way to, be able to portray what I was seeing with individuals. And it's like, but there's got to be somebody that, better than this, somebody that really has the time to do it. I argued about it for like 6 months, that there's, I'm not the right person for this job. And I didn't even know how to paint or draw at that time. But they were quite adamant that this is what I was supposed to do. So I did a few, just kind of playing around with it at first then. And I tried watercolor first, but very quickly learned that's like one of the most difficult mediums there is. And then I switched to pastels. Because I liked particularly the way they blended, blending the different colors together. And I had already been friends with one of the store owners of a metaphysical shop here in Kansas City. And I just started doing it, 3-4 Saturdays a month for love offering. I was doing angel portraits at the shop for, like 3-4 hours. So it was at the time, it was a kind of a great escape to get away from the kids for a while and do something adult. But yeah, and then it just kind of continued to grow and grow. And then eventually I realized I wasn't getting the detail that I wanted with the drawings, and I switched to colored pencil so I could get more detail, but still be able to blend color. The kids could come up in the middle of the drawing and go and rub it around and not ruin it.
Good point.
But yeah, so it's been a process, and and just becoming, honing my craft, not just as an artist, but in, being able to see what I see, even, improving those abilities. And then I kind of needed to, because of going into a crowd of people, seeing everybody's angels in full form. And sometimes they show themselves as being 15, 18 feet tall. That can be kind of overwhelming. So I did what I kind of think of as turning the volume down, where I see them like spheres of color, and it can be different sizes still, but it's like seeing little snow globes full of glitter that's just constantly moving. And then when I sat with somebody, it's like just one angel then comes forward and shows me shape and defines color. So that's how I know which one I'm supposed to draw. So it's totally up to them, not me.
So you mean angels aren't Caucasian? They're different colors?
I actually had that written down, Kat. I had that written down to bring up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know even, probably a number of years ago, I was at a psychic fair, metaphysical fair someplace, and there was another lady doing a type of angel portrait, and she was seeing these beautiful, very detailed faces. And I was like, well, why don't I get to see faces? And it took me a couple of weeks to get a really clear answer on that, but they told me it's because I see them in their more pure light form. And I think even the spheres of color is probably more their natural state, where, for them to interact with the 3D reality. Because the more physical they become, it's like the more energy it takes. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I kind of want to add something on that from my experience is like, anytime I've ever connected with like the angelic energy for someone, like to try to put on paper, like I'm in my head, I'm thinking, well, how do I draw this thing of light right? Or
Mhm.
God just get a black sheet of paper and put a white line down it? Because, you know, like that's how I've seen them before, just like these white columns of
Mhm.
light. But then I think if they work with whoever it is that we're doing this work for, so they give us an interpretation that that person, the sitter, is going to be comfortable with, or it gives them a kind of an image. So when they think about this angel later, if they're trying to communicate, they have something physical to kind of look at. So that's
Mhm.
kind of been my understanding, is that they will show themselves or project themselves in a certain way to kind of fit the idea that the sitter has of what that should be. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, it gives them something to connect with. And it also, one of the things in the discussion I had with some of my angels and asking some questions about all the energies and shifts and things that are taking place right now, is they also help anchor the angelic energies into the planet right now because of the energetic changes on the planet and inside the planet. And even that, and it's been explained to me that, like, we refer to as the entity that embodying the planet as Gaia. It's been explained to me that that is not necessarily the name of the entity. That's like the office or the name of the position. You know, like we think of, president. That's not the name of the person. That's their title, their position. And that's what Gaia is as well. And it was explained to me that in 2012, the single being that was holding that space left, and 3 beings have taken the place of that and that 3 are needed because of all the energy shifts and how much energy is coming to the planet at this time.
Wow. I have not heard that before. I just want to tune into that. Can you speak more to how the angels are helping are these 3 beings, can you say what those beings are? How would you define them? Because we always want, like, some sort of descriptors.
Yeah, my understanding, it's kind of like as the soul continues to evolve and develop, it's actually an honor to be asked to embody a planet. Yeah, and
So
as
go
we
ahead.
become more of who we truly are, we're capable of doing that because the human body can't hold the energy of a soul even at this point.
The human body, can't hold the energy like ours. Our
Yeah,
human body would
and that's
fizzle
why
out.
we
It would
have
burn
like
up.
the higher self. That's the part of us that's the physical body can't hold the energy of.
So are these 3 beings, and I understand you may not have all the answers, so I totally respect that. Oh, come on, Susan, you know everything. Stop holding back. No, like, so would the beings that are holding the energy of the planet, would those be planetary souls? Like we have, these souls that are, that we're an extension of. Is that a different sort of like planetary soul? Or you know what I mean? Is that my humanness trying to translate?
I think a little bit, and my understanding, as a soul is just it's as we continue to evolve and get closer back to that creative oneness, that some people call God, that the soul embodies, I guess is the closest word I can think of at the moment to, of what we can be. And we can be more than just,
Yeah, we can
what we're showing each other now in these physical.
Well, we are all oneness. We're all connected. I'm just thinking, I'm just connecting this back to them saying, would you like to be a planet creator? And being like, that kind of has a parallel resonance to that, right? Like if you were to embody be the soul that is holding and guiding a planet's evolution, that would be a world, a planet creator. I'm just speculating there. But I think it's fascinating. The 3, was it like the original soul that's holding the planet? Her name was Stephanie. And she was like, like, oh, I've had it. I'm done. I've done everything I can do. I'm burnt out. And Stephanie's like, I'm out. Who would like to take my title of Gaia? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, there's so much going on. 3. We need to have 3 people fill it up because there's so much work.
Yeah. And I think that entity put out a call to like, requesting assistance, and requesting other, and, and that 3 actually answered, which from my understanding is extremely, extremely rare.
We're special.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what that means sometimes.
We're like little toddlers throwing tantrums constantly. It's like takes
Sometimes we are
like
manage
toddlers
the room,
trying to burn down the house, and they're like, oh my God, we need 3 caretakers, not just 1, because there's too damn much going on. Did you want to ask that question, Linda? We had a question from
I do, and I have a related question as well.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
A plethora of questions about kind of understanding the differences. One of them's what are the differences between angels, spirit guides, and deceased loved ones, like Uncle Bob, who has the best feelings and best interest at heart for you. How do you tell the difference between those? What is the difference between those?
I know the difference between them, from what they have shown me or taught me, is that it is extremely rare for a angel to have ever taken a physical form. But it's extremely rare that a spirit guide has not taken had a physical lifetime. So angels do not do well with understanding time because they've not experienced it. So if you're asking them for assistance with something and there is a time frame involved, give them the month, the day, and the year. Don't say the end of the week, the end of the month. And if you're asking them, when's this going to happen? And they're going to go soon. But what soon means to us and what soon means to them is 2 totally different things. They also, and this, I thought this was really funny. I was sitting with one, and one from my financial team at one point, and one of the things that came back is, you add a nothing at the end of a number, and now has more value. All you added was a nothing. And when they said nothing, they're referring to the 0. It's like you put a 0 even behind a 1. Now 10 is more than 1 because that doesn't make any sense to them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they needed a little more of an explanation of that. And so, because angels don't take physical form, your deceased loved ones are not going to be one of your angels, but they could temporarily become a spirit guide, for example. Because your personal angels, it's extremely rare that they ever leave your side as well. They may sometimes like go ahead of you in your day to make sure things happen or don't happen in your best and highest good. Sometimes one might stay at home. You can ask them to, say, go check on a loved one, or have, and this is a tool I use, particularly used to use with my kids a lot, is have my angels talk to their angels. Because sometimes, kids are not good about taking messages from mom and dad. So yeah, and spirit guides, they're going to come and go as they're needed. You could literally have a spirit guide that's only there for 1 day because they're there to help you through a certain experience or a certain lesson, and then you may never see them again because they also have their own, because they have have had a physical experience. They have their own karma and lessons to deal with. Spirit guides can be another way to, for a being or a soul to learn lessons in between lifetimes by assisting others, being of service. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
wondering if physical, because I think angels do take, they can, like, they're not born. I mean, I
Right.
guess it's a whole thing. Like, I mean, oh, it all gets so wiggly. Because I feel like, you know, there are definitely people who are angelic from the angelic realm that come to take form, but as opposed to angels don't incarnate and go back to heaven, incarnate, go back to heaven. Like, there might be an angelic person that's come in for a specific mission, maybe, perhaps, right? Versus an angel that was like, I'll pop in and be physical for like 5 minutes and then I'm out. Like, what's your take on that?
I don't know. The way I think is there's beings that have been able to come directly from the angelic realm to here, where, you know, people is, you know, that, yeah, and this is an explanation for at least the way I understand it of what star seeds are. There's a lot of us that we've kind of slowly slowed our frequency down to be able to be here in the 3D in this very dense, very slow frequency. Because we've had experiences in other, you know, other galaxies, other star systems that were more dense than the angelic realms, but not as dense and as slow as it is here.
Mm-hmm. So you could start off as an angelic being and then say, I would like to start to go get more dense and have these layers of experience.
Yeah, but it's like once they've done that, it's like you can't
go back.
Yeah, in a way you can't. Not that, and I know, but yet at the same point, I know that's what we're all moving towards with what we refer to as ascension.
Right.
As a lot of us, yeah, but I think, yeah, it's also something that's going to have to take place in stair-step stages. Yeah,
right.
we're gonna go to 4D and 5D and 6D. Yeah, and some of us might be able to, you know, skip some grades, so to speak, you know, and jump ahead. Some of us, not all of us. Yeah, but our ultimate goal is to get back to what we refer to as heaven. But it even has different.
Well, it's like once you,
even the Bible says there's different houses of the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they're referring to, just different dimensions, different frequencies.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I was just going to say, it's like once you, again, that roller coaster thing, like once you get on the roller coaster, you're not going to go backwards. Like you will end and come off the roller coaster, but you're not going to go backwards. You're going to go through the different dimensions, and then you're ascended. Because I've had people, and it's one of those things where just trying to, you know, again, wrap our heads around it. I've had people say, oh, you're from the angelic realm. Oh, you're a fairy being. Oh, you're an ET soul. Oh, and it's like, okay, yes. I just say yes to all of it because I feel like that's part of my fractal alignment. Is like I've got aspects, and we all do have aspects, you know, I would think, coming in that make the amalgamation of this expression, but it's not just one, for me at least. And
yeah,
maybe,
and we've had, you know, we all talk about reincarnation, but not all those experiences have been on Earth. They've been other places too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the starseed explanation and ET explanation. And yeah, we've all had it, you know, not all of us, but a lot of us have had experiences elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Go ahead, Linda.
So I have another question here, but this is sparking another question within me. I know in my life that regular people have entered my life for incredibly short periods and impacted me for the rest of my life. It could be minutes. And I was like, that person was touched by an angel. That person was guided. They didn't know why they were there. They didn't know. And then they were gone. And my life changed. And I had an experience once when I was just walking down the street. And I just felt this strange shift within me. And I just became blissful. For no reason at all, I just became blissful. And I looked over and there was a woman on the other side of the street. Just before I saw her, I got this intent to look before I saw her. Like I needed to look there. There was something I needed to see. And I saw her and she was staring at me. And so I walked over to her and I could feel the pain she was in. Like it was, I could just feel she was on her last hope. She was so down. And I remember her saying, I saw you across the street. Are you an angel? I saw you glowing. And I didn't know what to say. And I said, I see you. So all I could say is, I see you. And I feel you. And I touched her on her, like, this is such a bizarre behavior for me. I touched her on her third eye. And it felt like something changed in her and me. And she cried and I just held her. And I just cried. She just cried and I held her. And when she was done, it was like during that embrace, whatever that was left, and it was me and her. And, you know, I emptied my pockets, gave her everything I had in my money-wise, because she was homeless and she was considering suicide.
Oh,
She
man.
told me. And
this is why I love Linda Coulter Burge, ladies and gentlemen. This is why she's my bestie.
And, you know, and somebody else came along that she knew, and like she was literally waiting for him, and she was trying to decide whether to go see this person for help or go away. And that delay was enough for him to come out and her to see him. And so I kind of handed her off to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked away going, what the hell just happened? And so I have often wondered if that was me experiencing that thing that other people have experienced, being that in my life. And does that happen? Like, is that something that you have heard of?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, I'm reminded, you know, just of the different situations I've heard over the years of, yeah, there's no way I should have survived that experience. There's no way my car couldn't have gotten hit, you know, all these different things. And a lot of times it tends to be there's some person there that seems to do or say something that, yeah, there, and then vanish. And I think it's, yeah, and I think it's a lot of times, you know, I've wondered if it's spirit guides or angels. And I think sometimes it's probably spirit guides. Sometimes it's angels. It almost like step in or touch you and take control in some way.
Yeah. I very much felt like this was not that I wasn't in control, but I was just this observer going, this is odd. I'm touching this woman in her forehead. Why am I touching this woman in her forehead? And it was just me surrendering to what the experience was. And trusting that there was a reason for it. And so it was very powerful for me.
You're so open-hearted, Linda. You're like a glowing light already. So it's like an opportunity to step in and help somebody. Linda, you know what I mean? Like I think that you're that way anyway. So you've got the biggest heart.
I give you the other part of my heart, but I'm holding my phone with the next question.
Next question. What's the next question?
Okay, the next question is someone who, again, has been a client of yours that, let me start where it is, been asking for years to connect with my angels, but I've only gotten a sign from them one time. I keep asking to see them. It never happens. reasons why, question mark, anything I can do, question mark. If it doesn't work out, no problem. So that was the question. Like, what can we do to create more of a connection or to be able to see them?
First, talk to them more. But yeah, angels aren't going to give you billboard signs. They tend to work very, very subtly. Yeah, even just seeing, different number patterns that mean something to you. If you keep seeing them repeatedly, that's just your angel saying, hey, I'm here. Yeah, I want to help you. You need to ask. Yeah, I know sometimes they use music with me. Like, I'm cleaning the house, for example. And I've got music in the background, not really paying any attention to it at all. And all of a sudden, for some reason, I catch a certain phrase. A lot of times there's a message in that little strange little phrase that you happen to catch. Or when you just, you're just getting in the car and then the radio comes on, there's messages that can be in that. I know a friend of mine that's an Uber driver, and she's noticed a pattern in the music that comes up in listening to Pandora when she drives, the songs that come up when with the different writers. A lot of times there's even messages for her sometimes about that writer and how to handle them if they're, with whatever's going on.
Wow.
What to talk to them about or not talk to them about, stuff like that.
Well, and
so music is, and those number patterns can be in license plates, the clock, what your total is at the grocery store.
It seems to me it's more the patterns that they leave for us versus physically seeing them as you see them. That we have to, it's in many ways like with our abilities. If we only expect to see things or hear things a certain way, we miss it.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it's up to us to be well. Also, if your thought is I never see my angels, I never connect to my guides, and then you're creating from that, still asking, they're still not here. So then that's your thought form, and that's your frequency, and that's your creation. And it's so hard. I mean, I say this as firsthand experience. It's so hard to get out of my own way and allow, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, my abilities, oh, my connection, and I'll catch my guides laughing at me or just rubbing their foreheads, where they're just oh God, you do it all the time and you're just not aware that you're doing it. It's you're the one. And what were you gonna say, Miss Susan?
I was before you go to bed at night, do something I am open to receiving messages from my angels. Angels and spirit guides. Just saying some of those, positive affirmations. I am open and ready.
Well, and I was gonna say also, what are you're asking? Oh, well, why can't I see them? Well, what are you doing to improve that? Right? What are you doing? What are you actively doing to engage into the energy? Whether that's meditation, a little journal for automatic writing. I'm a huge fan and always say, have an imaginary conversation, right? Imagine, what would they look like? What would they feel like? What would they say? Ask questions. Imagine, what response would they give you? Right? For me, intuition and imagination, they're sisters. One helps access the other. So putting we always were I won't. But what are we doing? I want to lose weight, but I'm not getting up and exercising, right? And I can't expect it just to. I'm not a teenager anymore. I can't expect it just to drop off. I have to put things into action to see the result. And connecting to energies, no matter what type of energy it is, it's going to be the same way. There's steps that you're going to have to take or put into action. And it can be something as simple as, like Susan was saying, this positive affirmations, just having the imaginary conversation, meditation, go get an angel deck of cards. There's so many different tools and vehicles to get to the end result, but it's not just going to fall into your lap, right? Like there's action you have to put behind it.
Right. Yeah. There was a time I even had a little journal that, I like write letters to my angels. Yeah. And sometimes those would be, oh, I'm so frustrated with this person at work. My kid's not listening to me. My marriage isn't going so well, whatever. Yeah. But then I'd also, put something in there that about what I was grateful for too.
Yeah, that I include gratitude in like everything I can. It's just, even when I send out my jewelry to people, it's always, may you walk in beauty, joy, and gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love you, Linda.
I heard something as you were talking about, what came in was to ask, how can I witness you that I'm not? In what ways am I missing seeing you?
I like that.
And just be in curiosity and allow that to show up. Because I think that's important in any of your desires to communicate more. In what ways? And I usually will get some kind of a pretty quick response to that. A feather dropping, a song coming on, whatever that is, a tap on the shoulder, a whisper. In what ways? Because I tend to want to expect it to show up a certain way, because I'm used to hearing things. So how do I have it show up other than hearing things? But I think that's one of the things, because I get caught up in, why don't I see them? Why don't I see what they look like? Why don't I see all these things that people see? Well, because those aren't the skills I've built.
Mm-hmm.
They're not my strongest muscles. And maybe I am, and I just don't realize that's what I'm seeing.
Well, I'm also a huge, for me, it's like, we're so easy to discount. Oh, that couldn't have been, right? Like that couldn't have been that couldn't have been them. So pay attention to those little moments, even if it's something random. If your first thought is angel or grandmother or, alien, if something happens and your first thought immediately goes to, 9 times out of 10, that is them. That's why you immediately recognize it. But 2 seconds later, you're like, no, you know what? That was just the light.
That never happens to me.
That was just dust in the air from the light coming in. And it very well may have been just dust flying through the sunlight coming into your window. But if it caught your eye and your first thought goes to X, Y, or Z, who's to say they didn't draw your attention to that as a way to connect to you, right? So just be mindful of the thoughts in your head and where your thoughts immediately take you in that first moment. Because 9 times out of 10, it's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually was talking with a friend of mine. She said, well, I want to know what my angels have to say, and what my do I have any relatives that are guiding me? And I instantly had, and she loves this story, she tells me to share it. I instantly had this very angelic, loving presence of just beyond love, just there with her, but had a little bit of feistiness. And then I had this like whiskey drinking, smoking, cussing guy telling where it's about effing time. It's like, I think I got him. There's such different energy and different takes that maybe that's part of it as well, of feeling those. I don't know, but.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the personalities of the angels, because that was something that you had said that surprised me, Susan, was that angels have different personalities. And I guess I just kind of thought like they're all coming from a very close, like vibratory field from the oneness. So they're more unified. So I didn't, in my mind, they didn't have different personalities. And then you also said something about the archaea in a conversation. And I want to know who the fiducial archaea are and how that relates to all of this.
Yeah, they do have very different personalities, just like people. Some are funny, some are more stern, some are very quiet and shy, so others are very talkative. And doing the portraits for people, that can really come out. And a lot of times too, it's like they have messages for that person, but it's not me they want to talk to. They want to talk directly to you. And they want you to learn how to talk to them. But they can still give me clues. And as far as the archaea goes, they are angels that hold more feminine energy.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody thinks of the archangels, and they typically put more masculine energy with the archangels, where the archaea are the more feminine. That makes sense. But though, typically angels are androgynous. They're just going to hold an energy that's sometimes more feminine or more masculine.
Well, how did you come in to encounter the archaea? Like, what's this? What's this all about, the archaea?
It came about from in the process of drawing some of the archangels and doing a portrait of them, not for people, because archangels are not personal angels for anybody. They come and go as they're needed and called upon. But in working with them, then the archaea came to me, also asking to be drawn.
Wow.
Yeah, because even the archangels, they have to come to me and ask to be drawn.
Just makes me go ahead.
But I just don't want to impose anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it makes me think that there's more that we know than that. I mean, there's always more than we actually know, but the fact that you cracked this open, I just find that fascinating, because it's like I kind of love having my mind blown, even though part of me is resistant to it. But it's like, oh, there's even more than that. Oh, and there's more than that. And I think it's just good for us to loosen our control a little bit.
Yeah, and it was the archaea that when I drew them for they're the first ones that showed me. I now, with the angel portraits that I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, I see light language on the body. And it was the archaea that helped me to learn how to do that.
Wow.
And that light language is a message like from your angels then to your higher self. So it is not something you necessarily need to consciously understand what it means.
Now, why would it need to come through a physical means? Like, why wouldn't my angels just talk to my higher self? I mean, to me, because again, my perspective is they're all hanging out in these higher frequencies. Why do they need a material intermediary to get the message to my higher self, when in my mind they're hanging out up here? I'm down here. Why would you need to do this? Not just do this.
There is a different, because the angels and higher self do exist on different planes of frequency. It's just a different way of receiving the light codes that is light language.
I wonder if it helps integrate the conscious personality in with the higher self. If it comes through us, it's kind of like maybe we're the whole that the thread comes through, and it goes from them through this thread to that, and then creates a better integration. I'm just speculating.
That makes sense. And and then it just gives them something to physically look at, to receive.
I'm such a child when it comes to all of this.
We all are. I've just been studying this for it seems like my whole life.
You've been living it. So I wanted to ask then, what do the angels say about And you may have, again, you might say, I have no information on this, so there's no pressure. But like in terms of all the things that we're going through on the planet, it does seem like a big time of upheaval. I feel like it's more transcendence than ascendance. I feel like ascension is a much longer arc, and there's transcendence within the arc, is what my experience is. Like ascension is like hundreds of years, but like there's transcendence within that experience. And I'm wondering if you get any messages about this time, you know, like for example, three beings come in to hold the space, the title and the space of Gaia. So has there been anything else that's come in terms of any heads up, any FYI for the times that we're in right now, or any additional information?
I know one of the things they're talking about, they're showing me, is that how it's like right now we all talk about, you know, we're going to 5D. I think that is a misinterpretation. It's more like we are bringing 5D to us. We are bringing into our space. We need to allow that and be in a more positive and more, you know, and being more conscious of our own personal energy to be able, you know, to assist bringing that in, and raising our consciousness, being more conscious of our words and our personal energy and what we're bringing to us. I think, you know, can be a simple way that every single one of us can contribute to that. But yeah, it's almost like, yeah, they're showing me like stair steps of, you know, of the ultimate goal. And there's almost like little certificates and pins and things on different stair steps. So yeah, I don't think we're all, you know, and some of us will, like I said earlier, will be able to like skip different grades, you know, and jump ahead. But, you know, and that's because of, you know, can be for lots of different reasons.
Well, it seems like what I'm getting from this is that like, it's more like, as opposed to making this external where, oh, well, let us tell you about the end times. It's like, no, here's the energy to manage the end times, or this transitional time, or whatever you want to call it. It's less about here's what's coming up and more about like, you're doing it. We're going to support you while you do it. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that would be very accurate.
And that kind of brings us into the Mandala talk, because you're, in terms of being active, you're somebody who's actively anchoring things in. So tell us about your mandalas and the Solfeggio frequency and what that is, what that work is with you.
Okay, the Solfeggio frequencies are very specific Hertz frequencies. They are based on Pythagorean math, so they go back centuries and probably before Pythagoras. But yeah, and even in there's some Native American stories and some stories from India, you know, as well as Egypt and some other ancient cultures that speak of our universe being sung into existence. So many of us believe that the Solfeggio frequencies are these frequencies, and you know, partly because the frequencies were used in the Catholic Church up until probably somewhere in the 1600s, when they conveniently lost the use of them. I've also been shown that the Stradivarius instruments were literally built to play those frequencies.
Ooh.
But from what I've been able to gather, you know, with bits and pieces here and there of research that I've continued to do, when NASA has gone into space, and they have found that each different planet, each moon, each sphere puts off a different frequency. And those that are, you know, in our little solar system are what is called the earthly Solfeggio frequencies, because there's actually 9 sets of 9 frequencies. And that, you know, all those numbers are, when you add them up, they always add up to 3, 6, or 9. Our sun puts off frequency 528. So the next one in the Solfeggio in the earthly Solfeggio frequencies, 528. So the next one is 639. So usually not all of them, but most of them, the next one up is 111.
So they go up in increments of 111, which is a 3.
Most of them do. Some of them are 21.
Okay, which is still a 3.
Right. There is a group called the Angelic Solfeggio frequencies. For those of you that see those triple digit numbers all the time, those are the angelic Solfeggio frequencies.
And are you anchoring this energy in through your mandalas? Like, so are your mandalas a physical representation of the sound?
Yes. And they are channeled. When the earthly set that I did, and kind of how this originally all started was, I got an old antique metal toy at the antique store called the Hoot Nanny. Yeah. It's grandfather to the spirograph. So the lines patterns in the earthly Solfeggio frequencies were created from that toy. I did struggle with, as far as the patterns and, because usually with a mandala, when you say fold it in half, one side's exactly the same as the other. So keeping that symmetry, I struggled with. So the rest of them, I did create the line drawings in Photoshop, but then I print those line drawings out, and then they're colored by hand. But I actually have the deck here of all. I do have that with me, so I'll just pull the one right off the top. So this is because of the blurry.
You gotta do it in front of you. Yeah.
But and that one is frequency 864 from the divine set. It's all about our spiritual, embracing your spirituality.
Okay.
But so each one can help you do, embody different, things as well, and be of assistance.
It's interesting. Right before we started this, I got very specifically to ask you about Metatron and your relation with that. And then I started thinking about how much is communicated through geometric patterns and things. So I'm just going to ask that that popped in. It's like, okay, I'm going to ask.
I have drawn Metatron, and one of the, he did show himself to me. He's really intense. Appeared like he was almost like he was made out of metal. Yeah. In ancient Greece, the statue of I think it was Athena was supposed to be made of solid gold, but it had been pounded so thin that it still waved in the wind. That's almost what Metatron looked like to me.
Wow.
But and of course we all have, what's, Metatron's cube, seems to be the core of a lot of sacred geometry. And you can pull all the platonic solids and find every single one of them in Metatron's cube.
What was your experience in Metatron? Like, tell us more about the connection with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Yeah, and now that I'm kind of thinking about it too, it was shortly after I drew Metatron that the whole Solfeggio mandala thing actually even came to light to me, because it started out, I knew nothing about them, and I was just starting. I'd gotten that toy and I was playing with mandalas, and I had another healer in Kansas City come to me and was doing some work with this, earthly Solfeggio frequencies, 6 of them, and he asked me to create the mandalas. And then it was like there was this whole process where it was like Metatron then revealed to me this group of beings known as the guardians of the Solfeggio. So he is the one that introduced them to me.
Wow.
And then that they are the ones that assist me with it, with this project.
That's wild. Yeah, other people have talked about Metatron. I have no conscious connection, but he's like a huge deal. I don't fully grasp what he's about.
It was just so weird.
I don't think we're supposed to
talk about this.
Okay.
I just got that there's a connection here that you needed to bring into this point.
Yeah, so thank you for that. But yeah, so he's the one that introduced me to the Guardians of the Solfeggio, which is a group of, in the etheric, there are 8 of them. I'm sure there is, but there are a total of 9 of them.
Okay. How do you experience them? What's your communication with them been? Yeah,
it's like I feel these like 9 or 8 robed beings around me. It almost feels like they've pushed my hand at times, just like the angels have taught me how to draw and how to hold the pencil, but it feels like they're the ones a lot of times pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very similar technique, just a different group of beings, like pushing the pencil when I'm actually doing it, or pushing the mouse when I'm drawing it. And I know when even when I've done the line drawings in Photoshop, a lot of times then when I'm coloring them in by hand, it continues to shift and change as I get and work with that. And I do also listen to that frequency as I'm doing it.
Mm. And why do you think you see 8, but there are 9? What's that about?
From what I have been told, I am the 9th.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, that freaks the bejesus out of me, to be quite honest.
But kind of connect that back into being a planet creator, because the Solfeggio, those tones are what's causing the light to take shape and become solid, right? So there's this whole through line of this thing of being a world creator.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you ever said that?
It's heavy to take that on. And I'm just kind of a lot of times going, I'm not sure I'm ready to embody that.
It's pure light. It's pure light to take that on.
I know. It just feels, and maybe this is the human part of me that does that. It feels heavy. The weight of it. How we'll sometimes feel like we're, putting the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Yeah. That's the human part.
Yeah, the responsibility.
The responsibility of it is, in this human form, I'm not ready for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're on the path. I think
I'm doing the best I can
you're doing great. You're doing great. I think you're on your way. You're doing it. You're already doing it. It's already happening. That's my 2 cents. So I wanted any other thoughts or questions on that before I pop to the next question?
I just have a question from the audience that I missed. So we can do it now or later, but
Go ahead.
How many angels do normal people have? Or what is a normal amount? Or what's the minimum? People. How many can we have?
The minimum is 3. Most people, the average seems to be between 5 and 9. But if you have 12 or more personal ones, then you have what is called a planetary contract. And that means that you are not here just for your own lessons, that you are actually here to assist others on their journey. And so you have a little more work to do, so to speak. So the more you have, the more work you
have.
How do you know how many?
Get
I
a
know
session, get a
probably
session with
get a
Susan and
session
find
with
out.
me, number one. Yeah. And I, if you ask the question, they'll reveal that answer. You could probably, I wouldn't know why you wouldn't be able to douse it out yourself, or some sort of kinesiology muscle testing.
She's dousing.
What about dousing?
Oh, that's my thing, is dousing. Yeah.
So if someone was to ask you, Susan, like, would you sit there and would you count out the balls of light, or in your head would you get a number?
I'd count out the balls of light.
What's the most you've ever come across for one person?
Oh,
Good question.
Good question. I don't remember. I know, I do once in a while see the people that have the planetary contracts. I have. But, so probably the most I'm seeing is, probably around 15 to 18, somewhere in that range.
I would think my assumption would have been like, you have that many because you're a handful. It takes that many to wrangle you in. But but I like the idea that it's because you're doing bigger work.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Well, I wanted to ask you, Miss Susan, what's your definition or your understanding of a fallen angel?
That's a really good question. And there's days I think I understand it, and there's days I don't. But it is definitely ones that, from my understanding and from what I've been shown, were ones that tend to show us, and this is not an easy job to do, but have helped us understand and see the polarity of the world that we live in. Yeah. And some people think they did it out of ego, but I actually at this point believe that it was the divine force, the creator, that asked them to do this job to help us understand and show us that.
Like, could you narrate, just in a generic way if you can, but kind of narrate the path of a fallen angel? Like, where do they come from? How did the fall happen? What were they doing on the planet? Is there any kind of generalities you can give?
I don't think I can. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm still understanding. Do you have a better understanding of it, Jason?
I have. So when we were talking earlier about, do they take human form and all this, and we started talking about, they downgrade their vibration. To me, that's the fall, right? They're lowering the vibration from this super high place into this lower density, right? They're falling down the scale of vibration or frequency so that they can better fit in with the energy here, so they can do the work. I always equate that, like, people are like, oh, they're demons and that's the devil. It's no different than the soul that took the contract to play Judas, right? Like, someone had to someone had to be the quote unquote the bad guy, right, in that situation, so that humanity, same thing with like the Hitler energy, right? Horrible human person when he was here, but the soul that volunteered to play that role for the planet. It's, for me, it's the same kind of equation. It's like you have this angelic energy that has now lowered its vibration, which also could be seen or correlates with separating itself from source, moving further away from the light, so that it can play whatever this role is that it's needing to play. That's always been my kind of take on it. Like Lucifer, I call Lucy. Like Lucifer is not, he's not this red wing, bat wing devil creature in hell and fire. He's once an angel, always an angel, right? Like, yeah, you're still an angel, but you're not the protector like Michael. You're doing something. You have a different role. Right. That's just how it's always felt for me.
Yeah, you explained it better than I did. Thank you.
Well, I think it's interesting because again, no matter where you're coming from, we've all played, or maybe we can't say we all, but most of us have played the villain as well as the hero. And if our fall from the light was a big step into defiance of the source, that's still the source. Like, even if you step away from the source and say, I want to be independent of you, I'm going to be a service to self, I can do it myself just fine, thank you. You're still the source, pretending or, you know, imagining that you're able to break yourself away and have dominion, domination, or whatever the trip is you want to experience. And, you know, the more that you indulge that trip, I think the denser you become. But yeah, I think it's still, everything is still ultimately connecting back to source, regardless of how long it takes for that particle to come back in its defiance. Which kind of brings me to the question of what's your understanding of archons, of the archons? Because again, there's that archangel, archons, archaea.
It's just another group, and I think they do help bring forth some of the more, because I know they have also not been portrayed in a positive light. But I think they're the ones that also help with the, helping us understand the polarities, and it's part of the experience of the creator. It's like the creator, just as and if it's only going to embody one shape and one being, it's gonna get pretty bored,
right?
And just wanting to expand experience.
Has their energy ever shown up for you, or have you ever experienced their energy?
No, I have not. And I know one of the things, partly because I know very early, when some more of my abilities, I guess you would call them, started coming more and more to light, I had an experience where there was a person in my life that I knew, and they showed me this person was going to be in a very bad accident and be in a situation, and it was going to be caused by, some things this person was doing in their life that were not in their best and highest good. And it was, it was kind of a scary experience seeing this. Tried to tell this person about it. Of course, they didn't want to listen. So it did come true. And this person ended up spending the rest of his life in a wheelchair. So after that, I asked that if there's anything dark like that, unless I personally can do something to get through to that person, to really help and prevent that I don't want to see that type of stuff anymore. I don't want to see those dark things. And I think that's probably part of why I have not, I've not drawn any of the archons, and they've not shown themselves to me.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I wanted to ask you then, in terms of people communicating with their angels, because that's always the thing. And my guides are always like, the first thing is always like, calm down. Calm down. Like if you want to connect, you need to calm down and stop racing around in your ego. But I know that there's stones, there's like Angelite and Celestite, and I'm wondering, what's your take on working with crystals and stones, and how do we work with crystals and stones? Do we meditate with them? Do we put them on our forehead? Like, what's some procedures and processes for using stones, and what stones and how?
All of the above. I wear more than my share. But yeah, I also do grid work with them. I have quite a few in my home. I do meditate with them. Sometimes I'll lay them on my body. I've also been known to put grids like between my mattress and my box spring. I used to do that with my kids a lot without their, I'd ask permission of their angels to do it, because, but it wasn't without their, they didn't have conscious knowledge of it. Because I tried just, put it in the corners of their rooms at first, and it was like, Mom, what's this? Or the cat would play with them. But yeah, and I've even gone on some crystal digs myself. That's a lot of fun. I always highly recommend going the day after it rained.
And where do you go?
Yeah, let
what
nature
area are they
reveal. I've gone down to the Hot Springs, Arkansas area, to several of the different mines down there. But my favorite, I think, is probably the Coleman Miller. It's a little smaller mine. It's a little harder to find, a little farther up the mountain, a little farther off the main roads. But I really like the energy of the stones I found there. And I found a lot of double terminated stuff there.
Ooh, nice. And what are some grid patterns that you would recommend? Because I think, people say grid work, but like, what is, where did you find your grids? What research did you do to find out what grids for this and what grids for that?
Yeah, it's just something to play with and do what feels right to you first. There are a couple of books out there. There's even a deck of cards out there has pictures of different crystal grids on it that I have found helpful at different times. And I know even with working with those cards, like, I'd want to try and copy as much as I could, but I didn't always have all of the stones, or I didn't have sometimes I didn't have all the different types. Sometimes I didn't have as many as it had. So I would just kind of create a pattern as close as I could with what I had. And you don't necessarily need to get the biggest and the fanciest and the most sparkly, because even with Angelite, for example, you can have a really little piece of Angelite. You're just using it as a tool to tap into the energy of the Angelite that's on the planet. You don't need to be holding a huge chunk of it.
Nice.
And to me, they work like lenses to help focus different types of energy. That's the way I explain it to people that are just getting started.
That's great. And this is a grid. I guess it's a grid, but it's a formation that I got from Jamie Butler, psychic medium Jamie Butler. It's not woo-woo, it's true, that Jamie Butler. Where I love that expression, where you put tourmaline. This was like something to just kind of ground, and when the energy is so kinetic, it was like putting 4 bits of tourmaline on the 4 corners of your bed and then 1 above your bed. And the way that I suspended 1 above my bed is I literally just put it in like packing tape and then pinned it to the ceiling. So it creates a natural triangle or a pyramid. And I've been using that, but I imagine you could then change up your stones with that. Like if you had certain intentions for the night, maybe stones that amplify lucid dreaming, or wanting to connect to your angels, so you use that, and you can probably swap it out for your intention of what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, and I always recommend a lot a stone called shungite, because it actually helps with the EMF frequencies put off by our cell phones and all these electronic grids that we're inside of. So I have several pieces of that around my home, particularly by my Wi-Fi, by my bed, piece on each nightstand. So placing stones around the house, as well as in the 4 corners. I even went to one of the local craft stores and just got some little wooden boxes, and I actually found ones that had even a little window in the top of it. And I have probably 12, 15 different stones, in those boxes, and those are in the 4 corners of my house. And I periodically go in, usually on either full moons or the equinoxes and solstices. I'll go pull those in and clear them. Just because energy, it's not that energy is bad. Sometimes it just gets stuck. So just clearing that energy and then resetting them.
Yeah, it's like laundry. You want to wash things. You don't want to have it take old energy with you. Well, I'm wanting to start wrapping it up because we're coming to the end of the show. But Linda, Jason, any other questions or bits of exploration?
I do have a question. What do you say to, okay, I'm trying to think how to phrase it. What do you say to people that say that angels are just other types of galactic beings? They're these high, energetic frequency, what's the difference, or is there?
Yeah, to me, they're just, a faster frequency dimensional being. So, in a definition of what an ET is, technically, they are. But at least from what I understand. So they're just, probably some of the fastest frequency, because I like the terms faster, slower better than higher, lower. I just think it's actually more accurate from a human perspective, because that faster, higher, lower insinuates something's better than something else. And I don't necessarily believe that's true. But I think they are just, as far as frequencies goes, they would be one of the faster frequencies that still hold some sort of, and can define some sort of physical being in some way. Though I don't think we still fully understand what they are. At least not from where we are, the perspective that we have at the moment.
It's interesting, before we started, I was wondering where my stone that I consider my angelic stone was. And I have just
hundreds,
a library of stones.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds of stones, and no stone there, not where I would normally put it. And as soon as you started talking about stones, I saw a flicker directly underneath you guys, underneath my monitor. And it's my stone.
It was right there.
It's been right there. It was right underneath, and it was like literally almost changing colors because it was just flickering light.
So it looks like a celestite cluster.
Fun. Yeah, that it was, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was so funny because it just started flickering light. Like, here I am. They're talking about stones.
That's celestite. That looks like celestite. Yeah, it's a cluster.
Small celestite cluster. Yeah. And celestite can be fairly fragile.
Yeah, so if you put it in water, like the base will just dissolve and you'll have a bunch of little crystals.
Yeah, it was just interesting because it was like, here I am. I've been here all along.
Just like the angels.
Yeah, another one of my favorite stones is turquoise. Which is known as the master healer.
Linda is like Our Lady of the Turquoise.
100%. That's my stone.
Yeah, I have a very dear friend who is actually kind of a turquoise expert, and he's actually taken me to his turquoise mines. And that was a dig.
That's a lot harder work all the time.
Yeah,
it's a lot harder to. Go ahead.
Yeah, turquoise is a lot harder to mine. It's a lot more physical work, but it's fun.
It's amazing. I'm going to hang out with you and go crystal hunting sometime, Miss Susan. So on that note, do you have any final words from your heart to the hearts of our people? So you can just, whatever you want to share, just let it come out and connect with the hearts of everyone who's watching and will be watching.
During all these crazy times, all this really strong energies that are coming to the planet right now, please take care of yourselves. Find ways to get grounded and centered. Meditate whenever possible. If you're not meditating, find a type of meditation that works for you, because there are many different types. Take the baking soda and salt water baths to help cleanse your personal energy fields, to get clear, to understand. Really, meditation is to understand who you are. And taking the time for you. So I think that's best the way we can deal with everything that's going on right now.
It all comes back down to self-care and taking care of you as a home.
Taking care of your temple.
Your temple. Nice. Thank you, Susan. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to toss the mic over to Miss Linda so we can start our gratitudes.
As always, thank you everybody for joining us live. Share the show with those who couldn't be here. Thanks for the great chats on the side and the great advice back and forth of suggestions for people. I love the conversations we have there and for asking such great questions. You guys have such wonderful questions. And don't forget that down below are all of the links to Jason, to Susan, and also our coffee, I think, is down there, as well as remember to join our Facebook group if you haven't. And if you're not able to get it when you're watching YouTube, pick us up on Apple and Spotify, okay? And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. One more time, I'm going to tell you because it makes a difference.
It really does help us.
It really does make a difference. So thank you. And thank you, Susan, for joining us. Thank you, Jason. You always add so much to the conversations. And your energy alone adds an amazing amount. And so with that, Kat, who are we going to have next week?
Next week, we are having Elizabeth Anglin, and I found Elizabeth like 8 years ago or so, and she's an ET experiencer extraordinaire. Like her experiences stretch my mind in terms of how all of it, like trying to find the words to say what's really out there and timelines and alternate dimensions and all that stuff. So that is going to be a roller coaster ride with the amazing Elizabeth. So please join us next week at our regular time, Saturdays at 9 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific and noon Eastern rather. So with that, big blessings, everyone. We'll see you next week. And thank you again, Miss Susan. You are a delight. It was just so great to hang out with you. It just felt like so natural and easy.
It's been fun, and thanks for all the great questions.
Awesome. Our absolute pleasure. All right, everyone. We love you. Take care. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.